Hi, welcome to Book Wound! I'm glad you chose to spend some time with me. In this video, or this second vlog of the month, I'm going to talk to you about the many books that I managed to read in the last 2 weeks of February. And to make it a little bit more enjoyable, we took you out with us on a walk through our village that is bringing us along what they call the castles, but most of them are very ancient houses or even farms. The one we have here in the back is called Le Château de la Vignette, and it was built in 1911. It is not a castle, it is a very big house. And it has on the other side of the building a huge park viewing out into the forest that we will be visiting a little bit later in this video. And just to have it out of the way, I want to quickly talk to you about the book that I DNF'd. Well, technically, it is not I who DNF'd the book, it is Naoki. I was reading A Sky Full of Dragons by Tiffany McDaniel to Naoki, and I proposed him this read because I really enjoy her writing, and I thought that this a little bit magical, nature-inspired book would talk to him. And the book is very interesting, it is very whimsical, it has a world that is completely different of what we know, with flying heads, talking heads of all kinds, but also with unicorns that run under the earth, and their horn is the trees of the forest. It was, I think, on a good level for a child, and unfortunately for Naoki, it didn't work out. We read about 130 pages, but with his autism, he has difficulty picturing things in his head, and this world is too imaginative for him to be able to follow along. Also, there is a lot of made-up names and words that for him were also difficult to understand. So we decided not to continue this read since he took absolutely no joy in it. And I decided to not finish it myself because it is really for children, and I have other things to read that I would prioritize over this one. So unfortunately, a DNF. But if you like completely whimsical things, if your kids like completely whimsical things, I think this is a fantastic book to try out. This next stop is next to a vineyard, and I will link the website in the description box, and I'll try to link it up there as well, that we have in our village. This vineyard is trying to be very integrated in the natural environment. They have put like stands for the birds of prey, for example. They also have some bees and some old sheep. Well, they had, because we had something very sad but also very exceptional happening. We had a wolf, a lone wolf coming through our village, and unfortunately he killed the sheep. I will see if I can find back the picture I made of them when we did the walk in the snow a while back, because I photographed the sheep at that moment in honor of them. I'll try to put it somewhere. And I will use this stop to talk to you about the audiobook that I started at the beginning of the month and that I only finished in the third week of February, which is A Walking Fire by Anthony Ryan. This is the first book in the Dragon Blood series. And this is an audiobook that I listened to for my project of listening or sharing books with my loved ones. And this was a recommendation that is pending for a while that my husband made to me. And he was nagging me like, when are you going to listen to it? So I picked that audiobook. And unfortunately, I will have to reread that book with my eyeballs. I did make a bad choice listening to this book in the start of February, where the shorter drives to my workplaces doesn't let me the opportunity to listen to bigger chunks of this story. And the story is so introductive and so full of smaller things that I feel I missed a lot of the story, maybe not the details or the important smaller things. And also another reason why I couldn't listen to bigger pieces of it is that there was a bus strike, and Tilia has been home for 2 weeks, and she was so kind to take over most of the housework for me so that I could spend my time taking care of the ill little ones and my husband, who got surgery when I came home from work, instead of running around to do all those chores. And I feel that, well, this book really, really suffered from that. In this world, we will meet Clay, that is, he starts off like being some kind of bandit, but he will grow into an explorer, and he is in this expedition looking for a silver dragon. And then we also meet Lisanne, who is a spy and who is traveling to another side of this world, would say, um, gathering information to help the expedition find this dragon. And we don't know what is really happening or why. We know that in this world, some humans have the opportunity to use dragon blood to enhance their possibilities or their abilities. And so dragons are hunted and cruelly farmed for that. And we are really getting to know all the characters and smaller events. And by the end, at about 2 hours before the end, this all comes together. And then I said, like, oh, this is going to get interesting. So for now, this book, it was just okay for me. And I said to my husband, because we talked a lot about this book, that I would reread this book with my eyes, because they are available at my library, before really having a judgment of it. I think I'm all red. We just came out of the forest and we had to change the itinerary of the walk. So this walk is drawn out by our town, and it is labeled as easy, except that this last part coming out of the forest is quite going up, but also the road we were supposed to take is flooded. So we have this water that we filmed that is flowing down there, and it's one of our lesser known rivers, and I always forget how it's called. So I'm going to sheet a little bit and I'm going to watch this, but it is where it is. But Buri, the little river is called Buri, which is also the name of a part of this forest. And clearly with the rains we had this winter, this very small water has gotten more large and made some waterfalls even. And so we had to change routes and we had to take a very stiff hill up to get at this point. So I will try to catch my breath and to tell you about the first physical book I finished the third week of February, which is a French only book called Norferville, and it is written by Franck Thilliez. This is a thriller story, and I always read the notes in the back first, and I'm happy I did. It learned me that the author wanted to write a book about Quebec and Canada as a whole to stay a little bit more in the ambiance of a trip he made. And in this book, we see clearly some very interesting topics come up. But let me first tell you what it is about. It starts in 1996 with Leonie, who is 16 years old or almost, and she lives in Norferville. And this is said in the note, it's a completely fictional town, all in the north of Quebec, located near the Labrador area and the Labrador Sea, I think it is. And this is made up with pieces of very much different goose of different villages or cities. And he wanted to create a completely fictional one to have nobody or no place linked to the horrible events in the book. In this, this is a mining city or mining town that is mostly there because of some iron mines that are on Inuit country. And this town has like an area for the workers, or area farther away, more beautiful for the more higher up placed people of this mine factory, and then also a reservation for the Inuit. And the only ways you can get to the city is by a train, and it takes 13 hours to get to the nearest city, or by airplane. And so this village is very isolated. And in this prologue, we will meet Leonie and her friend Maya, who go home from an evening at the local pub and who get assaulted. Maya is Inuit and Leonie is Métis. Her mother is Inuit and her father is, I want to say white, but that sounds bad, Caucasian maybe. And they both have a hard time due to being different. And this will be a topic that is going throughout the whole book. It is the way that Inuit are treated by the Caucasian Canadians, even if officially there is no distinguishing, it still happens. And also because apparently, and if you're from Canada, let me know if this is something that is real or that was made up for this book. There has when this book is set later in 2016, apparently is coming up a whole scandal about how the Caucasian people or men have been ignoring disappearances and murders of Inuit women, and that is they noticed that there were some serial killers that went unnoticed because nobody cared about these missing indigenous woman, and that at that point that this was coming up, and that the government was trying to do something about all that. And this book is highly centered about this topic. So we will jump from this prologue to 2026, when a French woman is found dead near the reservation in this city, and that is how's she called again? Me and names, but it doesn't matter. She's the daughter of a French detective, which is a criminologist who works for his own, but with the French police as a profiler. And he's called Teddy. And when he is notified that his daughter died, was found murdered, he, of course, makes the trip to this city. He has lost his wife in a car accident of 10 years prior or something like that. And since then, the bond with his daughter has been very weak. She moved to Canada following a boyfriend with whom she split up since then. And he knows very little about her life there. And when he comes to Norferville, he will, together with Leonie, who is sent back to this town. So she gets out and she's sent back as a police officer to find out what happened to Teddy's daughter. And they will stumble upon a whole lot of different problems. They will investigate different parts that will often lead to discovering something, noticing something, or getting a clue from a bigger case, but without solving the actual murder. And we will go on having some traditional legend elements woven into that, until at the end we find out what really happened. And of course, we also find out that this is a first step in a way bigger investigation involving just that idea of the Caucasian people having ignored so many indigenous women missing or murdered. And the thriller part of this book was quite traditional and even a little bit predictable, which was sad. This book was highly recommended to me by several people here, and I was a little bit disappointed by that. But for the part about the things going on, maybe in between the colonizers and the indigenous people of Canada, was very interesting. And again, if you are from Canada and you can tell me more about this idea, then or the facts of what is exactly, or what exactly went on, I will be very happy to know about that. It wasn't a bad read. I did have a good time, but yeah, I wanted something more out of it. The castle you see behind me is called the Château Blanc, or the White Castle. It is built in neoclassic style, and it's from the 1800s or the 19th century. I film it from a little bit more away because I know that this castle is inhabited by private people, and I didn't want to intrude on their privacy. I'm going to make use of this stop to tell you about the next book that I finished, and that is Never Lie by Frieda McFadden. Frieda McFadden writes thriller stories. She writes unrelatable narrators, and I fell in the trap. So the premise of this book is that we are following Trisha, who is in a relationship. She's married, not since that long, to Ethan, and they are looking for a house to buy. And they are on their way, and they arrive at this big house that is like 3 kilometers away from everything else in the midst of nature. And they are visiting this house, but arriving, they are caught up in a snowstorm, and they are blocked in this house for the weekend. The lady that is supposed to show them around doesn't show up, but they get in, the door is open, and they explore this big house whilst waiting for the snow to go away, or the service to come clean the road, to do so that their car gets unstuck and they can go back home. This castle this big house seems to be inhabited because there is food in the fridge and there is a glass of water opening, and so it creates a very dark atmosphere. Tricia will find a hidden room in the office of the previous owner of this house, which is a lady that disappears 3 years ago. And she was a very well-known psychiatrist who also wrote books. And in this hidden place, she finds the cassettes of all the seances this psychiatrist had with her patients, and we will be discovering these cassettes together with Tricia. I will not say much more because it will spoil the whole thing, but I really fell in the trap and I was like, no, this is not, no, it's too easy. This is going to be the first Frieda McFadden book that I don't like. But no, the plot twists are as fantastic as every time. And so I highly enjoyed listening to this book. And if you need something a little bit less, or asking for a little bit less brain power, but to get you going, then I would highly recommend this book to you. This is the castle of Envaux. It is in the big garden that goes with this castle that we have done the night with the storytellers. This castle is at least from the 17th century, and we have learned about this castle in history in 1756. It became the object of an exchange between Seigneurie de Vaux-Borset and his knight Georges de Mello. The farm that goes with this castle is from the 1600s. What you see behind me is the village of Envaux, which is a very, very small village, which is part of our larger village. And the chapel is La Chapelle Saint-Pierre, or the St. Peter Chapel. And this one was built in the 19th century, but underneath is the rests of a very much older chapel. This is a chapel where two of my children were baptized, by the way. I have fond memories of that place. And this is a place that I will talk to you a little bit of the next read I finished, which was Dragonhaven Part 2, or La Décrue by Robin Hobb. There is not much I can say. I'm reading this book for the fifth long, as I've been doing for like, this is the third year now that I'm reading almost each month a book in this series. And if you are new, in French, every English volume is divided into 2 or 3 books, and so Dragon Haven has been put into 2 parts in French, and this is the second one. So in this book, we are continuing to follow the river that is going through the rain wilds, in which we are trying to find a home for some dragons that we saw, how do you say that, come out of their eggs at the very start of this series. And hatch. Thank you, Tilia, that we saw a hatch, and we are still looking for a city called Kelsingra, I think you say it. And I feel that I like this 4-book series less than I have loved the 3 first trilogies. And I struggle a little bit going through, because I feel it is quite monotonous, but then also I think it is meant to be that way, to reflect how the characters are feeling. And towards the end of this book, we are making progress and we are seeing events arriving that make me think that I will like the next volume better. So let's hope that's the case. We're almost back at our starting point, and it is time to talk about the last book I have finished so far. And that would be The Labyrinth of Lost and Found, which is the first book in the Whisper Weeks series by Jordan Lees. And I long hesitated if I would read this book. This was the buddy read with Tilia for this month. And she told me this book is very middle grade, and she hesitated if I would enjoy the writing of it. The story, she said you would, but maybe the writing not. That's what you said, isn't it?
That was.
Yeah. As always, she's holding the camera for me. And I read the 544 pages of the French edition in 2 days. That's how much I liked it. So no, it is reading very fast, and it has a wider font and more white on the pages. And I must say, so that is reading quite fast. But then I still read it very fast because the story is very gripping. So she was wrong. I enjoyed all of this book. It touched me way more than Les Vents de Tertiel that it's in my previous blog, which is on the edge between middle grade and young adults. This one is most certainly middle grade. So we are following characters who are 11 years old, and we will meet Benjamin, who is living in our time, but in a very small, picturesque English village, and or at least a village that makes me think of England. And he is troubled. His parents are not getting along very well, or hesitating if they would get a divorce. And when they are off on a trip to try to find their couple back, Benjamin is sent a package which holds a very strange doll. And at first he thinks his gift is from his parents. We will later find out how it is related to them, but basically this is some magical doll called an echo, and it will take him along to another world, another dimension maybe, that is called Daedalium. And that is a world that is a gigantic labyrinth. And in this world, he will meet Elisabelle, who is looking for her twin brother, Edwin. The names are all very strange. That disappeared. And together with Isabella, he is traveling throughout this labyrinth looking for her brother. And I think the world is well, I would like to have like more description of the streets and the roads and everything they come across, which is a little bit lacking. We do have descriptions of very whimsical places who are very interesting. But then it's middle grade. I didn't want to expect a full world building like I would expect from a Robin Hobb book, for example. But the world is very well thought. It's so completely different from ours, and that it is interesting in everything that you read about it. Then I feel that the two children who we are following do act like the children they are, but still they make a lot of progress because they are forced to take care of themselves and to get out of situations by themselves, and so they feel like very much growing and more mature by the end of the book. And the relationship they build up, it is a little bit like an enemies to friends story, which is going very slowly, and the turns are very delicate, and it is very well done, and I enjoyed this book a whole lot. It is the first in a trilogy, but the end concludes like the big arc of the book. There is one or two loose ends that could lead to the second book, and I am not sure if I want to go back to that or right now. So I will keep this on my, if I got time, if I have a prompt that leads me to a reading a middle grade, then I will probably go for the second book. But it's not a book that I'm going to prioritize anytime soon in a way I want to read. I felt the story was nice and concluded. So if you want to dive into this world and get to know it, then you could do it with just this first book. But I'm trying to get my other kids to read it, but I am not being very successful. I will look at Tilia and will say, will you make a little clip with your impressions of this book for us?
I will.
She will. So we will be waiting for that. It will be a little bit further on in this video. I am going to conclude this walk. We are back. We have a little park to go to, and then we're back on our car. Our walk this morning, we found these hazelnut kittens.
Thingies. I have no idea.
And these can be eaten. And the recipe that we encounter often for them is to put them in a chocolate bath, so that they are all surrounded by chocolate, and then to eat them like they also do with lemon zest, for example. So we are going to try to make that with them this afternoon. And we, that is Tilia and Merin and I, because the boys are off board gaming. Attention les dés. I'm not washing them because they are coming from the middle of the forest where there is no pollution, but also it rained yesterday and tonight. So when we picked them, they were still wet and cleaned by the rain. So I'm not going to wet them again and risk them to become unusable. So we are melting the chocolate. And we are waiting that is done before putting them in there. And we took out these big tweezers to easily manipulate the kittens, I think it's called.
I'm here to give you my thoughts on The Labyrinth of Lost and Found, which is the first book in the Whisper Wakes, sorry, I can't say that, by Jordan Lees. Mom already told you what this book is about, so I won't do it again. So if you've kind of forgot, just go 5 minutes back. I had a great time reading the story as well. I do think it's really written for children, but that does not make the story less interesting. And once I was reading it, it reads super quickly. It was super fun to read. And another thing I really like about the story is the fact that the relationships between the characters grow so beautifully and actually give a very cute and adorable aspect to the story, who do cover some quite deep topics when I think back about it. Although I really like this first book, I probably won't be continuing the others. I won't be reading the other books in this series because I think the magic of the first one will kind of get lost and it will kind of get boring and too childish, although I do mostly read young adult. But yeah, I had a great time reading this one.
I want to come back to you and update you about a few reads that I have finished since our walk at the start of this week. And the weather has completely turned around. We went from grey and wet to very sunny and quite nice, 17-18 degrees in a light spring sun. And I take the opportunity to be out at Niklaus' dance class to filming this little park again in the nice evening sun. It's very pleasant after a long winter to be outside in such weather. And so let's talk books. That's the best thing you can do when you're cozy. The first book I want to talk to you about is two books, and it's two comics of the series Animal Castle that I started in December. And in this series I read like the second and the third, and there will be one more. And there is not much I can say. So in this book series in a whole, we have a mix between George Orwell's Animal Farm, or the idea of representation of society in this form, and we have Gandhi's non-violence resistance through oppressors. And in this castle, where that is a farm that was abandoned by humans, live a bunch of animals who all take a role in this story. And it sets off when the general population isn't happy anymore with the president, which is a bull, and his milice, who are dogs. And it's very difficult to tell you more about everything that is going on in this story because it is a comic. It is not very expanded in page count, so every part of it is very dense with what happens, and it's very easily spoiled. I still continue thinking that this is a very interesting series, not perhaps for the story in itself, but for all the ideas and thought-provoking discussions that are held in this book for the representation of society and the human, what is human in the end. And for now, I am very curious to see how this is going to end, because it seems we have made some progress in the animals' resistance and in their demands, but I think we are on a point that will break or will construct. And so I'm very much looking forward to read the fourth one, which is on hold in the library, and we'll see when it comes in. The second read that I have finished is The Quiet Tenant by Clémence Michallon. I will put the name somewhere. This is a book that I have seen a few times now on BookTube. This author is a French author, but she lives in the United States. She has double nationality, and this book has been written in English. She also published a book written in French, which is now one that I want to read because this book was very gripping. When I started it, I had difficulty going into it. So the overall premise is that we are going to meet a young woman that is being sequestered, locked up in a garden shed by a serial assaulter and killer. And at some point, after 5 years being in this shed, he announced to her that they will have to move, and afraid of being killed, she says that everything will go fine and that she can move along with him. And this is what's going to happen, and the book gets very, very interesting once this move has happened, which is at the very start, because we will see how the situation evolves now that she is living in this house with him, and how very slowly events around them will also influence the way that there are some very excited teenagers, how that also the outside will have influence on how they how this sequestration is going. No, on dit séquestré en français.
I don't know how you say it in English.
I don't know in English how her captivity is evolving through all these events. And what I think was the most difficult for me to get into was that this book is multiple POV, and so one of the POVs is the woman that is living in captivity, and her parts are written in second person. So when you read it, you feel very much like it is you, and it is a very strange position to be in such a story. And these are switching with the third person view from someone from the outside, and also with a first person view from someone on the inside. But we will never have the point of view of our antagonist, would say. And once we got really into the story, the story became very gripping. I read it fast and I couldn't put it down because I needed to know what was going to happen and how things were going to go. This book is very interesting for the story in itself, but also for all the reflections or the putting in images, the psychological ideas of being in such a situation, Stockholm syndrome, but also other coping mechanisms. And it will also go a little bit further into also the psychology of the other people around this situation, like the two other points of view we have. I was a little bit disappointed by the end, not by the end in itself, but because it ends where the story ends for the main character. But I would have liked to see maybe another chapter with the point of view of the person that is in the house. And maybe also some more rounding up on the events themselves. I will not. I try not to give anything away because I think this book would be very easily spoiled. So I think I'm just gonna leave it with that. But I really enjoyed this book, and I would say if you're looking for a good thriller with Realm Matam coming up, this one would make some points because it has a thriller element if you're in the Rogue team. It has, in the French edition, the author's name on 2 lines, and it also has structural openings because it has the house with a window on it. So if you're looking for a book as a rogue, or maybe even not, but then read this one. It is really worth it. It is Sunday evening, and technically it's already March, but I come to you to close up this vlog. But before I do that, I will make use of this Ramadan sprints to talk to you about the last book that I finished this month, and that is The Hobbit by we say Tolkien, but maybe it's Tolkien, I don't know. This is a reread for me. This copy is in Dutch, and I got it as a gift from my grandmother when it came out in 2001, this edition. Of course, not the book itself. and it was one of the first real heavy epic fantasy books that I read. I think I did read Lord of the Rings before reading this one, but at around the same time. And I have been thinking about rereading these books for a while, but since I could read this as a village read for once upon a year readathon, and that I had some time left because I managed to read more than I set out to, which I didn't expect at all, then I decided to get this read in the month, since I didn't got it in my March TBR, and I needed to finish it before end of March. So I think this is a story most people know. It's about a hobbit called Bilbo who is visited by a wizard called Gandalf, and Gandalf wants Bilbo to go on a adventure, which is quite unusual for hobbits. And so the next day, a bunch of dwarves, I think there are 13 of them, came around to Bilbo's house for tea and to make the plans for their adventure. And of course, Bilbo sets off with them, even if he runs after them in quite a hurry. And we will follow them for months, going through the lands of their world, visiting several places, having several encounters, good and bad ones, before arriving to the Lonely Mountain, where is a lost dwarven city. It has been taken over by a dragon called Smaug, and the dwarves really want Smaug to leave their city so they can get over it. I enjoyed this read as I have before. For me, this is a very nice adventure. I have still the movies in my head, even if I didn't see them for a couple of years now. And I still have this feel of epic battle going along with this, whilst in this book there is less of the epic battle and very much more of the adventure. And after reading some other classic fantasy this year already, I still feel that this one is the best of all those adventure quest type books. I will not count Lord of the Rings in those type. They are more epic with battles and stuff, but in the more just going on an adventure, this is one of the ones I prefer to read, and I'm very happy that I reread it. And with that, we talked about all the books that I managed to read in February. And it is for me time to close up this vlog and to get it out to you. I hope that you enjoyed coming along with us on our walk, and that you enjoyed seeing us cook these hazel catkins treats. Well, we didn't mention in the video that we did really enjoyed them. We thought they would taste more like chocolate than something else, that the catkin in itself didn't have a lot of taste, but it added a very interesting texture to the chocolate. It's not something that we will do like every week, but I think once in a year this could be a very fun thing together and to cook with the kids. If you want to know what I'm going to read in March, there is a TBR video that can be watched, and otherwise you could follow my channel and look out for the 2 carousel vlogs that will be coming out in March to tell you all about the books I've read. See you soon!